There's a moment that happens to certain people and it makes no logical sense. You're doing something completely ordinary, driving, cooking, standing in a line, and suddenly your heart is racing. Your hands feel cold, your chest is tight. You search your mind for a reason. There isn't one you can find. Nothing happened. Nothing threatening is here. And yet your body disagrees completely. If that's ever happened to you, there's a real explanation, and it's not you're overreacting. Your body may be remembering something your conscious mind never fully processed. And once you understand how that works, a lot of confusing moments start making sense. Quick heads up, before we dive in, this channel breaks down exactly this kind of thing every week. So you might want to be subscribed for what's coming next. Let's start with something most people get wrong about memory itself. We tend to think memory only lives in the mind, as stories we can recall. But there's another kind of memory, one that doesn't use words at all. It's called implicit memory, and it's stored in the body, not just the brain. Implicit memory doesn't remember what happened. It remembers how it felt. The smell in the room, the tone of a voice, the tightness in your shoulders. None of that comes back as a clear story. It comes back as a physical sensation. This is why you can feel afraid without knowing exactly what you're afraid of. Your body isn't confused. It's remembering something your mind never got to file properly. If any part of this is already making sense of something in your own life, hit like now. It genuinely helps more people find a video that might explain something important to them too. Here's why this happens the way it does, and it starts with how trauma gets processed. When something overwhelming happens, your brain doesn't process it like a normal memory. Normally, an event gets encoded with time, context, and a clear beginning and end. But during something overwhelming, the part of your brain responsible for that gets disrupted. Specifically, a region called the hippocampus, responsible for placing memories in time. Under intense stress, the hippocampus can essentially go offline temporarily. Meanwhile, the amygdala, your brain's alarm system, stays fully active and alert. The result is a memory with no clear timeline, but full emotional and physical intensity. It's not stored as this happened on this day, and now it's over. It's stored as pure sensation, ready to fire again if anything similar shows up later. This is why trauma memories can resurface without warning, decades after the event. Not because you're dwelling on the past, because the past was never properly filed away. Here's what makes this even more confusing for the person experiencing it. You can be triggered by something and have absolutely no idea why. A certain tone of voice, a specific way someone stands too close, a particular smell. None of it makes sense consciously because the memory attached to it isn't conscious. Your body reacts to the sensory pattern before your mind even catches up. This is sometimes called a body memory, and it's a well-documented trauma response. It explains why some people flinch at things that seem completely harmless to others. It's not oversensitivity. It's a nervous system responding to a pattern it once learned meant danger. Let's talk about what this actually looks like day to day, because it's often subtle. You might feel inexplicably anxious in certain rooms with no memory of why. You might tense up around certain types of people without being able to explain the reaction. You might feel a wave of dread on certain dates, months, or times of year. Your conscious mind has no story for any of this. Your body has the whole file. This is one of the most disorienting parts of trauma responses, the disconnect. Your mind says nothing is wrong. Your body insists something absolutely is. And when those two signals contradict each other, people often assume they're broken. They're not broken. They're carrying information stored in a different format than words. If you know someone who reacts to things they can't explain, send them this video. It might genuinely help them understand themselves a little better. Let's talk about why the body specifically holds on to this, and not just the mind. Your nervous system's main priority during a threat isn't understanding, it's survival. In the moment something overwhelming happens, your body isn't trying to make sense of it. It's trying to get you through it, using the fastest systems available, not the smartest ones. Those fast systems are physical: heart rate, muscle tension, breath, adrenaline. Long after the event ends, those physical patterns can remain primed, ready to fire again. This is often described in trauma research as the body keeping score, a phrase popularized by psychiatrist Bessel van der Kolk. The idea is that even when the mind moves on, the body can remain on alert, not because it wants to keep you suffering, because it's still trying to protect you. It hasn't received the update that the danger has actually passed. Here's something worth understanding about why some memories process cleanly and others don't. Ordinary stressful events usually get filed away with context intact over time. You remember them, but they don't hijack your body every time they come to mind. Traumatic events are different because they often happen too fast or too intensely to fully process in real time. There wasn't space to think, this is happening and it will end and I will be okay. There was only room for survival, and survival doesn't pause to narrate itself. This is why some people can describe a traumatic event calmly with almost no emotion attached, and why others can't get through describing it without their whole body reacting. Neither response is wrong. They reflect different ways the same overwhelming experience got stored. Let's talk about something important, because this pattern often gets misunderstood by others. People who react physically to old triggers are sometimes told they're being dramatic, told to just get over it, or that it happened a long time ago, so it shouldn't matter anymore. This advice, however well-meaning, misunderstands how the body actually works. Time alone doesn't heal a memory that was never properly processed to begin with. Time only heals what actually gets metabolized, understood, and given a real ending. A memory stuck in implicit. Sensory storage doesn't fade just because years pass. It waits, quietly, until something similar enough comes along to activate it again. This is why someone can seem completely fine for years, then suddenly react intensely to something small. It's rarely actually about the small thing. It's about everything the small thing is connected to underneath. So what actually helps here? Because understanding this is only the first step. The first thing that matters is recognizing these reactions as information, not overreaction. When your body reacts strongly to something that seems minor, get curious instead of critical. Ask yourself, does this reaction match the size of what's actually happening right now? If it doesn't, that mismatch itself is useful information, not something to be ashamed of. It usually means an old pattern got triggered. Not that you're currently in real danger. The second thing that helps is naming what's happening while it's happening. If you can. Something as simple as, my body is remembering something. This isn't about right now. This doesn't erase the physical sensation immediately, but it gives your mind an anchor. It helps separate the present moment from the old memory trying to insert itself into it. The third thing that helps is grounding through the sense, right where you are. Naming 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear. This works because it pulls your nervous system's attention back into present time. Trauma responses often collapse the sense of then and now into one moment. Grounding techniques rebuild that boundary, reminding your body where and when you actually are. The fourth thing worth knowing is that body-based approaches often help more than talk alone. Because these memories are stored physically. Sometimes talking about them isn't enough on its own. Approaches like somatic therapy, EMDR, and certain trauma-focused treatments work directly with the body. They're specifically designed to help process memories that got stuck in that sensory, wordless format. This isn't something you need to figure out entirely on your own. And it's not weakness to seek that support. It's simply working with the actual mechanism of how the memory got stored in the first place. Let's talk about something important before we wrap this up. None of this means you're permanently controlled by things you can't remember clearly. It means your body has been trying to protect you, using the only tools it had at the time. Those tools made sense once. They kept you safe when you needed protecting the most. The goal now isn't to shame the reaction or force yourself to just push through it. The goal is slowly teaching your nervous system that it's allowed to stand down now. This takes time, and often it takes support, and that's completely normal. Healing from something the mind never got a full story for is rarely instant. But bodies are also incredibly capable of learning new patterns, given the right conditions. The same nervous system that learned to protect you can also learn that it's safe to rest. If any part of this explained a reaction you've had that never made sense before, drop a comment below. Tell me what a body memory has felt like for you. I read every single one, and you are not alone in this. Let's talk about something that trips a lot of people up when they first learn all this. They assume if a memory is stored implicitly, they need to remember it consciously to heal. That's not actually true, and it's one of the most freeing things to understand about this whole process. You do not need a clear memory. You do not need a timeline. You do not need every detail. Healing doesn't require you to solve a mystery first. It requires your nervous system to feel safe now. This matters because a lot of people get stuck chasing the why, searching for the exact moment, the exact cause. Sometimes that search helps. Often it isn't necessary at all. Your body doesn't need a full story to finally let go of an old pattern. It needs new, repeated evidence of safety. Here's another thing worth understanding, because it explains why healing isn't linear. Trauma responses don't fade in a straight line. They tend to come in waves, then quiet down, then return again. This isn't a sign that nothing is working. It's actually a normal part of how the nervous system processes difficult material. Think of it less like flipping a switch and more like slowly turning down a volume knob over time. Some days, the volume feels loud again, even after progress. That doesn't erase the progress that happened before it. It just means the nervous system is still in the process of learning, and learning isn't always smooth. There's one more thing worth mentioning, because it changes how people treat themselves during this process. A lot of people feel embarrassed by their own reactions, ashamed of flinching, ashamed of panicking over something small. That shame usually makes things worse, not better. Shame tells the nervous system it did something wrong by trying to protect you, but it didn't do anything wrong. It did exactly the job it was built to do with the information it had at the time. Treating your own reactions with curiosity instead of judgment tends to speed up healing more than forcing yourself to get over it ever does. This is worth remembering the next time your body reacts to something your mind can't explain. You're not failing at healing, you're in the middle of it. And the middle is often the most confusing, uncomfortable part. Before you go, I just want to say, if any of this landed for you, there's a good chance the next video will too. This channel is basically a running list of the confusing things our minds and bodies do, finally explained in plain language. So if that sounds like something you'd want more of, sticking around and subscribing means you won't miss the next one. No pressure either way, just glad you spent this time here today. One last thing before you go. If your body reacts to something and your mind can't explain why, that doesn't mean you're broken. It means there's a story your body is still holding, waiting for the right conditions to finally be released. You don't have to have all the answers today for that process to begin. Understanding this is already the first step toward your nervous system finally getting the update it's been waiting for. You are not overreacting. You're carrying something that was never given the chance to fully finish, and it is never too late to give it that ending now.